If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris. I'm the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by our friend Khalid in Pakistan from Command 11. Grew up in America, so he's one of the good guys as well. And S2, who's usually on with John, but John was at the GOA meeting in Knoxville this weekend, so you're stuck with me instead for a change. So tonight we're going to be discussing how our stolen military weapons from undersecured domestic armories and the stuff we left behind in Afghanistan, thanks to the incompetent Biden admin. In both instances, you have our weapons now in the hands of terrorists, and there's a ton of intelligence to that effect. However, before we do that, we're going to hit the conflicted question quickly. If you're not familiar with this, conflictedthegame.com. These are card games. I want to say they have 14 decks now, and the questions are set in a post-apocalyptic scenario setting. And there's always an element of morality to the question, hence the name Conflicted. So I'm going to read this off quickly, and when we get to the end, Khalid, S2, and I will give you our answers. We want to hear your answers in the live chat or the comment section down below. Your home is attacked and marauders are dragging a loved one toward their vehicle. Both perpetrators are armed with pistols, and you are armed with a semi-automatic rifle. Based on your training and experience, you have a 50% chance of neutralizing the attackers or hitting your loved one. Would you take a shot or not? So that's a good example of morality being pulled into the question at hand. So, Khalid, just because our Sunday night crew hasn't met you yet, give us the 60-second elevator introduction, please.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Khalid. I run Command 11 in Pakistan. We are an intelligence organization. We operate inside of Pakistan, Afghanistan, across the Middle East. We have human intelligence assets we work with. So everything we get is coming right out of the camps, the terrorists, things that we hear right out of their mouths. We've been at this. Command 11 started in 2015. I've been fighting in the war on terror since 2007. When the Taliban took over my home district in Swat, I gave up my life in southern Pakistan and my company, and I came back. I formed a militia, trained a militia, went to war with the Taliban for 2.5 years. I spent 6 months in Taliban custody, being tortured and being beaten. So I understand these animals quite well. And I will not give up this fight until they are all gone.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding that, Khalid. Like I say, so the Sunday night crew is a different bunch of people, so I wanted to make sure that everybody understood what your background was and where you're from. Let me just pull up a quick shot of our Substack here so people know what to do. So if you go to survivaldispatch.news, sign up for a free account. When we're broadcasting live, you get this video up top here, but the reason I'm pointing it out is that our SITREPs are available to everybody. So daily situation reports, and this is what they look like. Doesn't cost you anything to have access to our daily SITREPs. Doesn't cost you anything to have access to our Saturday watch guide, which is a list of everything that we publish for the week. So just go to survivaldispatch.news and you'll get all that stuff for free. So that being said, let's jump into the Muslim Brotherhood, Khalid, and this one's for you. We're going to go back and forth because we have so much content. So one for Khalid, one for S2. There will be a little bit of overlap at times, but Muslim Brotherhood isn't merely affiliated with Hamas. Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood. The 1988 Hamas Charter openly declares it a wing of the Brotherhood. The only reason the Muslim Brotherhood is not designated a foreign terrorist organization is political correctness. Khalid, I want to hear your opinion on why this is. Why has the Muslim Brotherhood been allowed to operate in Western countries with no repercussions when they're a straight up terrorist organization and facilitator of terrorist organizations?
Here's the thing we don't understand. In the Muslim world, 8 countries have banned the Muslim Brotherhood. 8 countries have banned the Muslim Brotherhood because they are a terrorist organization. And in the U.S., there have been numerous efforts back to when Trump was in first time as president. He tried to ban the Muslim Brotherhood at that time, but his government ended before he was able to pass the bill and put Muslim Brotherhood to an end. Right now, there's a bill in the House of Representatives to declare them a terrorist organization. Once you get rid of Muslim Brotherhood, you remove that political wing. If you remember in the last episode, I talked about the 3 types of Islam. There's the normal Muslim, there's the political Muslim, which is Muslim Brotherhood, and then you have the radical. The political is always the cover for the radical. The political is always the cover for the radical. And Muslim Brotherhood, as long as they can operate mosques, they can generate funding, they can move that funding to terrorist organizations anywhere in the world, and they're able to do whatever they want. Now, why have they not been blocked in the US yet? It really is political correctness. I have said over and over in every episode that you need to get this PC crap out of the way, because there is national security first. There is your own safety first. Then you can worry about political correctness. But when you put political correctness before your safety, before your national security, you put yourself at risk. And you're going to lose your liberty if you do that.
And I couldn't agree more. So S2, next one for you. This is out of Philadelphia. This is not breaking news, but somebody reposted it on X a couple days ago. Muslim American Society Islamic Center in Philadelphia. We will chop off their heads, liberate Al-Aqsa Mosque, and lead the army of Allah, fulfilling his promise. We will subject them to eternal torture. The blood of martyrs protects us. 30-second video. So look how young these kids are. And the one reading, if I had to guess, is probably maybe 11 or 12 years old, maybe 13, 14 here, and then a couple that look like they're under 10 years old. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there because most of us don't speak the same language, don't understand what they said. And I read all of that off in advance anyway, but you can see the date, top left corner, 2019. This is 6 years ago. At S2, your thoughts on, I mean, if we're going to live by our Constitution, people have freedom of speech, but there's a line somewhere as far as inciting violence, is there not? You're on mute, S2.
Well, for starters, that was a propaganda video that was designed to radicalize young people. And if you watch the body language of those kids in the beginning, you could tell that they don't believe what they're saying. That's an important distinction to make there.
I would say so. It's either way, propaganda or not, it's kind of sickening to see that on our own land here. So again, we have a ton of stuff to cover tonight. So the pace is going to be fairly quick, going from one thing to the next. Next one up is for Khalid here. And it's from Sarah Adams. 100 cop cars all bunched up together. Our police can't pack in like this, not against Al-Qaeda, who will hit in waves. Fix this today. So more than 100 police cars and trucks here near Emory. 26-second video. So I'll go ahead and stop it there because that's enough to see everything. All the vehicles stop. Khalid, want to get your opinion on, we don't have SOPs for this stuff at all.
No, we don't. That's the problem. I mean, even in a country like Pakistan, we don't have SOPs for this, and we've been victim of this so many times. The problem you have is, and we picked up Sarah's post and we did an expansion on that. The thing that you have to understand is that the goal for a terrorist is to get you all into one place. And when they get you into one place, they walk one suicide bomber in, he clacks himself off, and he's got 50, 100 casualties straight away. And it's the conversation like I was having with you earlier, Chris, on chat. There's 2 scenarios we haven't seen yet. We've seen the hoaxes, we've seen the explosives, we've seen the active shooter. We have not seen the sniper yet, and we have not seen a multi-shooter event yet. Those are two things that we haven't seen yet. And once those things haven't materialized, you are looking at a problem that's waiting to develop. When we picked up Sarah's post and commented on it, we said, look, you need to start developing scenarios and start developing SOPs. The terrorists aren't waiting for you. They're watching how you're reacting. Well, what they're seeing in Armory is that you've got 100 vehicles parked in one place. That is a gold mine for a suicide bomber or a sniper. Sniper takes up Overwatch. He just starts firing. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. So what we believe is law enforcement needs to start working with GWAT vets, because GWAT vets have seen this firsthand, how this operates. Start developing scenarios, write up an SOP, run the SOP, revise the SOP, and get it to the point where you can actually react properly. Because if you're not thinking about this right now, you don't have time to think about it when the attack happens.
Yeah, and I would add to that as well that we're covering some updates initially here, and then we're going to get into, there's been a rash of break-ins at our armories that's been going on since the 1970s, and there's been a serious amount of military equipment taken from those locations, even recently in Tennessee, where they got a bunch of NVGs, military-grade NVGs, M4s, et cetera, et cetera. When we have our law enforcement bunched up like that, it is literally like shooting fish in a barrel. They have the same weapons, if not better weapons, than the SWAT teams have, for crying out loud. And there was somebody on the side here, let me see, some ambassador saying this S2 guy is trying to justify child indoctrination. You clearly don't know who S2 is, and he's not trying to justify that at all. That's a pretty ignorant comment. And if you don't have anything positive to say, you're welcome to leave. So moving on to the next one, which ironically enough is a post from Khalid's group, Command 11, but I'm going to throw it your way, S2. We've said many times that these groups have never been separated. The TTP fought alongside Al-Qaeda against the U.S. ISAF forces for 20 years, which handcuffs the Taliban in taking action against them. You may recall in June 2024, when Noor Wali Massoud met with the Prime Minister of Afghanistan, he openly threatened to leave the Taliban and join ISKP. He knew he had the support of the Haqqani, Al-Qaeda, and ISKP, which meant that that threat was easy to make. Pardon me there for a second. We've seen the integration of support from the Taliban and Al-Qaeda with the Afghan fighters that have now been included in the TTP, the equipment being provided and the kinetic support of cross-border cover fire while the TTP infiltrate into Pakistan. This is the level most don't understand. The sheer integration of all the groups from Afghanistan across to Pakistan, Central Asian republics, and the rest of the Middle East. It's not just the Afghanistan-Pakistan card. It's now the entire region that is interconnected with the terrorism leadership in Kabul, Kandahar, and Khost. So S2, if you don't mind, speak to how the enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine and how they've all ganged up in terrorist central Afghanistan now to target us. You're on mute, S2.
Sorry, I was trying to hold my tongue.
No problem.
They've all been allowed to be brought into the country where they're able to establish their camps. And from once you establish your camp, then you can establish communications cross-border with other cells. And then once you do that, then you can start forming your logistics chains. And that's primarily probably how they're getting their weapons back and forth across borders. So once again, how they're able to do that, that's exactly how. You move in, you set up your camp, you begin training, you set up your communications, and you set up your logistics, and you're good to go from that point. And when you've got some of these people, like I'll give Brussels, Belgium, for instance, you have an ISIS terror cell in Brussels, Belgium, who provided logistical support for, I forget which one it was. It wasn't the Mumbai attack. What was the other one?
Spain, Paris, November.
Which one was it, Khalid?
It was Paris.
Yeah, Paris. So they're still in operation. They never went away. So until you go in and you eradicate these camps, and you cannot tell me that the military of these countries do not know where these camps are. I call bullshit on that. They're allowing them to remain because somebody is gaining political power over it. They're being told that, oh, if you let us stay here, we won't touch you or your family. You're good to go. And they don't understand they're being set up for the slaughter.
Yeah, well said. Next one is another post from Khalid's group, and I'll pass it off to Khalid in just a second. So in another hilarious statement coming out of Afghanistan, Abdul Latif Mansour, the Taliban's Minister for Energy, has claimed that none of Afghanistan's neighbors, especially Pakistan, cannot tolerate a strong central government, whether it's the Taliban, Mujahid, or communist. He went on to say the TTP has bases in Pakistan's tribal areas and that Pakistan's internal matter. Let's deconstruct. So I'm not going to deconstruct it and read all of this. You've got an awesome post here, Khalid. I'll let you explain it in your own words.
Okay, let's pick this up from a very simple point of view. Look at the three options you gave us, the Taliban gave us. Taliban, Mujahid, which means terrorist, and communist. You didn't say democracy in there anywhere. The three government options you gave us were the three governments that no one's going to accept. Now, Pakistan as a country has never had a problem with Afghanistan. Afghanistan has had a problem with Pakistan. As long as King Zahir Shah was king, Pakistan and Afghanistan were best friends. Kabul was like Paris. I mean, people used to call Kabul the Paris of the West because girls were walking around in miniskirts and everybody was free and everybody was fine. So what happened was the Soviets and the Indians got tired of what was going on. They raised up a puppet called Muhammad Dawood Khan, and they executed the king in the palace, and they installed their own government, which meant the Soviets had more power in Afghanistan. And from there, it slowly rolled. It was called the Sour Revolution. It slowly rolled from there into the Soviet military moving into Afghanistan and occupying Afghanistan. And that's where the Mujahideen came from. Mm-hmm. The problem that we have is the Taliban sitting in Afghanistan. You have put a blindfold over your eyes, and you're calling bullshit on everything. And I'm sorry for the French there, but we know there's 33 different international terror groups operating inside of Afghanistan, and you're saying it's a Pakistani problem? Come on, dude. We have video footage of them coming across the border from Afghanistan. Just yesterday, we killed 45 Pakistani Taliban people trying to infiltrate from Afghanistan into Pakistan. We caught them on a border and took them out with drone strikes. How are you trying to tell us this? I'm going to go backwards as well to S2's comment that the military knows where they are. Damn right they know where they are. We have given geolocations of suicide bomber camps. We have given geolocations of training camps. The problem is for us as Pakistan, every time we've carried out a strike inside of Afghanistan, the human rights organizations jump up and start screaming. And we've been on the front foot with human rights organizations saying, wait a minute, when innocent people die, you have nothing to say. But when we kill terrorists, then you have a problem. So whenever we want to take action against them, we're always hesitant because, oh no, Human Rights Watch is going to get up, Amnesty International is going to get up, and they're going to say, oh, you killed innocent civilians. Well, what about the innocent civilians they're killing in my country? You have nothing to say about that. But when we kill the terrorists, then you get up and you start talking.
It's a bizarro world. There's no other explanation for it, Khalid. But moving on to the next one for S2 here, and this is from Khalid's group, Command 11 again, but a lot of truth in this particular post. Giuliani is the anointed one, according to U.S. ambassador. Who is that? Who is that account?
Ambassador to Turkey, okay. Thomas Barak.
Okay, yeah, I didn't recognize the acronym. Anyway, Sarah Adams is absolutely correct. This is a victory lap for Al-Qaeda to have their commander visiting New York City during September, which you can be sure will include a visit to the World Trade Center. Apparently, he will also visit the White House as well. Do you think he'll offer a prayer for those killed and for those who carried out the attack? Giuliani was a mistake of a selection of president of Syria and a worse mistake to invite him to the U.S. It's an insult to the American people and the soldiers that were killed, injured, and fought. This one here has to just makes my head want to explode. For those people who aren't familiar with Giuliani's background, go ahead and start there, S2, then take it whatever direction you want.
Giuliani's background, yeah. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But what I will say is...
Let's just get this out there. He was part of Al-Qaeda and was one of the first ones to spin off one of the first sects of ISIS. Go ahead, Khalid.
Giuliani was first in Iraq with ISIS. He was so prolific in the amount of people he killed in Iraq that Baghdadi sent him to Syria to run ISIS in Syria. Then he started the Al-Nusra Front, which was a cover organization for Al-Qaeda. He is one of the two co-founders. The foreign minister of Syria, the current foreign minister of Syria, is the other co-founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria. So you have literally put Al-Qaeda in power.
So sorry, guys, to go ahead and roll from there.
That's all right. But what I was going to say is, if he's been invited to the White House, which is, in my eyes, I don't see that as a slap in the face. I see that as a strategic move. I look at the way Trump behaves and look at the other enemies that he's brought into his midst. And eventually he either works a deal out with them where they capitulate to him, or they pay the consequences for not backing down. And he's working towards peace. It's very evident that's what he's working towards. So by having Giuliani come to the White House, I have a funny feeling there were conversations in private that we're not ever going to be privy to. That's just my...
That wouldn't surprise me. Let me throw this out, S2, and by all means comment on it. Somebody a while ago, a high-profile public person, said that Donald Trump is the most transactional person that this person said they've ever met. So he'll do whatever it takes to pull off a deal to complete a transaction. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And he likes to keep his enemies close.
Yeah, and then there's an element of truth to that as well. Regardless, this guy Giuliani's is a disaster, like an absolute disaster. So, Khalid, here's another one of your posts. Tom Barrack Jr. called Hezbollah a major political group in Lebanon a couple days back. He's now calling Al-Qaeda Syria a guerrilla warfare group. U.S. counterterrorism policy has completely self-destructed. 51 seconds. This is insane.
So if you look at Syria, which started way, way behind Lebanon in terms of prominence and credibility and belief, what we went through in the Assad regime was something horrible and amazing. And against all odds, in December, you have an entity that was viewed as a guerrilla warfare group that had done a good job in Idlib now takes over in Syria. By the way, they've been trustworthy, they've been thoughtful, they've been considered, they have a lot of their own issues. And
this is him describing Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
This is him bending over for Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
It's unreal. We only got a little bit left to listen to.
The world has come to help them. The world, not just America. Why? Because they don't have a history of disappointment. Just your first question is really the answer.
Khalid, how on earth did this guy get put in this position? Seriously.
We honestly don't understand this one. I mean, I have been bashing Tom Barrack since the day he became ambassador, because you have no idea what you're talking about. This guy sat on Lebanese TV and said, Hezbollah in the 70s was showering us with flowers. Hezbollah was created in 1982. And you're talking about the 70s when Hezbollah was showering the American with flowers. I mean, where are you getting your history lessons from? Number one, your mentality is wrong, because Syria is in complete control of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. We've proven it. We've shown it to you. Just this week, we've had videos released where they carried out executions in hospitals, the number of Christians you killed, the number of Druze you killed. How are you being considerate? How are you being thoughtful? How is there not a history of disappointment? I understand that you want to portray a picture that you've made the right choice, but the choice you made is costing people numerous lives. And you're going to end up with Syria either ending up in a civil war, just like Afghanistan did after the Soviets pulled out, which would be disastrous. And if that happens, because you've got Turkey very close, Turkey is supporting Giuliani and saying, oh, he's a good guy and we're going to support him. We want to take out the Syrian Defense Forces, which is a US-backed organization. And you got Tom Barrack, who is the US ambassador to Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon, threatening the SDF and saying, If you don't lay down your weapons and join the Syrian army, quote unquote, which is actually the Al-Qaeda army, we're going to let Turkey take out kinetic operations against you. What are you talking about?
Yeah, a couple quick comments before we move on to the next one. Turkey has one of the largest standing armies in the world, depending on whose numbers you want to believe. Could be third or fourth largest standing army based on their manpower. And sorry, I was trying to keep up with some of the stuff on the side. So I'm going to pivot to the next one here for S2. This is from Sarah Adams. The U.S. is about to help create the third Islamic caliphate in a row. First Afghanistan, then Syria, now Lebanon. Let's not pretend we don't know how we got here. Tom Barrack's nonsense set the stage for this in Lebanon, and everyone knows it. So why is our government still keeping him on the payroll in any capacity? Short 18-second video here. Supporters of Hezbollah in a bunch of different locations in Lebanon. It's a quick one, if it'll play. Has anybody else been having any difficulty with X videos lately? I'm getting one of every 2 or 3. It just hangs like that. And
I upgraded all my network gear today, so no, I'm not experiencing any problems.
That's good stuff. Apparently we are. So I'm just going to pivot back to you, S2. So thoughts on Lebanon, S2?
I had a thought and there it went. I think the issue with Barrack is somebody's getting paid, or he is being promised something, or he's a true believer. We had one of those true believer ambassadors in Benghazi. He could be one of those. I mean, you can pick any one of the above, but at the end of the day, he's pretty much shit without protection anywhere he goes. So he has to capitulate to those people because he's going to be in their countries. It's just the way the game is played.
Yeah.
Unless somebody tells him to play it otherwise.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. So moving on to the next one with Khalid here. This is another one of Khalid's posts. So there's a very interesting game Tom Barrack Jr., the U.S. envoy to Lebanon, Turkey, and Syria, is playing in Lebanon. About a week back, the Lebanese government was engaged with a policy document to disarm Hezbollah, which the government responded positively to. On Monday, the Lebanese government responded with a 7-page reply, which made Barrack very happy, according to media reports. Yesterday, Barrack called Hezbollah a major political party in Lebanon, which needs to understand their future. So let's get this straight. The U.S. has endorsed the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. U.S. has accepted and endorsed Al-Qaeda in Syria. Now the U.S. is dancing with Hezbollah to include them in the political process in Lebanon. Khalid, what kind of chess game is being played here?
This is, again, I'm going to go back on Tom Barrack here. Tom Barrack has issued 5 different statements in relation to Lebanon. First, they issued a document saying, we want you to disarm Hezbollah. Okay, we want you, the video you were trying to play was the protest that happened after the Lebanese government said, yes, we are going to disarm Hezbollah. Now, I fully agree. You need to disarm Hezbollah. You need to disarm Hamas. There should not be militant organizations in any country. Period. End of story. That's a risk to peace in your country. But when you start calling Hezbollah a major political force rather than the terrorist group they are, that's not going to work. I mean, you've given them a justification. It's the mistake Pakistan made. And I'll give you a very simple picture. There's an organization in Pakistan, a terror organization in Pakistan called Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. They have blocked off Islamabad on numerous occasions, demanding that the French ambassador be removed, declared persona non grata, and sent out of Pakistan. They have blocked off Islamabad, demanding different laws to be changed. And it has been violent force. What did the military do? They said, okay, let's take you out of the militant force and let's turn you into a political party. That has backfired on us in a way you would not believe. You are putting terrorists in your government. You're giving them the power to create laws, vote on laws, pass laws, and basically scream your narrative to the entire country. How are you not justifying terrorism? What Tom Barrack is doing right now, whether it be Syria, whether it be Lebanon, you are justifying terrorism. Because no matter how much you want to pretend Giuliani is reformed because he has a suit on, that reformation has not happened, because Giuliani himself, just a few months ago in an interview, said he was asked, what about all the minorities that are being killed in Syria? Giuliani sat, he thought for a second, he goes, well, you know, this is going to go on for 2 or 3 years because there's nothing I can do to stop it. You have a military of your own, and you cannot stop the massacres of minorities happening in your own country. It's not that you can't, it's you won't.
Well, let's go back the week before last. In 1 week, there were 2,000 Druze slaughtered in Syria the week before last.
Yep.
And there were more slaughtered last week. I just don't have the current number at the tips of my fingers, but it's absolute mass genocide against all of the minorities in Syria.
Yeah.
But we're backing the guy who's behind it all.
We're backing the guys, and we've invited him to the U.S. to come to him. And what's funny is that you, on one side, you are talking about bringing him to the U.S. to visit the White House and to visit New York. And then he's going to come back in November and speak at the United Nations. You have just given Al-Qaeda the biggest victory they could ever got.
Well, Jeremy's right here, upside down world. It's intentional, and I don't disagree with that either. But it's pretty disgusting when you're bringing somebody who's at the upper echelons of AQ, who are responsible, you know, for all kinds of atrocities, especially against us, and having him here. I don't know. I mean, hopefully S2's right. He's just keeping his enemies close. Trump's keeping his enemies close so he can react to them. But anyway, moving on. Next one for S2 here. So Qatar appears to be pursuing a Doha 2.0 strategy, using Algeria to frame Al-Shabaab as an armed group rather than a terrorist organization. Per intel sources, Al-Shabaab's current objective seems to be capturing key districts in Mogadishu while avoiding major government and international targets. This may be designed to create a controlled crisis, enabling Qatar to step in as a mediator, echoing its role in Afghanistan, and secure a negotiated settlement that boosts its regional influence. The video is 2 minutes and 47 seconds long. I'm not going to play the whole video. I will play a portion of it. And just to make sure everybody's tracking with us here on this stuff, basically from Afghanistan over to Mogadishu and all points in between, these are the hottest spots right now for terrorism around the world. So we're kind of starting off here with an update in that part of the world where things are not too good, to put it mildly.
The Al-Shabaab group has been fighting the Somali federal government for years, but in the last few months, the Al-Qaeda-linked group has taken town after town as central Somalia falls increasingly under its control. Meanwhile, the capital, Mogadishu, and the government there are ever more isolated from the rest of the country. In February, Al-Shabaab's offensive, despite numerous government drone and airstrikes, quickly won battle after battle. The group took 7 towns and villages that month alone, including Balad, restricting movement from the city of Jowar to Mogadishu. Al-Shabaab took 6 more towns in March, in part because of the lack of arms supplied by the government to local clans defending those areas. Poor stabilization and the weak presence of government forces also meant the towns were ripe for the picking. The loss of Al-Digle, a town which sits on an important road junction on the Shabelle River, hampered government movements and the transport of aid in the west. The Somali army pushed back with help from its special forces and troops from the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, or ALSOM. It retook 2 settlements, but at one stage, the fighting reached the outskirts of the capital. The African Union has more than 11,000 soldiers in Somalia, of whom 50% are Ugandan. Its forces supply not just soldiers, but much-needed helicopter gunships. There was no let-up in April, when Al-Shabaab took the town of Barire in Lower Shabelle State, compounding the government supply problem in the west. As Al-Shabaab fought to the government for control of Wargadi, the group took 4 more towns. Al-Shabaab kept up pressure on the Somali army, this time pushing into Hiran State. In June and July, Al-Shabaab took the villages of El Hariri, Mokokori, and Tardo, giving it control of the main highways running through the area, plus the local airfield.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop that there. This story and the next one, which is the end of our introduction, then we're getting into the weapons being stolen. The key point here is essentially seeking out Christians and killing Christians, and in large numbers. So S2, I'll let you take over here as far as Somalia is concerned.
Well, looking at that game plan in there, it clearly looks like the Somali army needs to change their tactics because their shit ain't working. Um, Instead of staying on the main roads, they need to start attacking along the sidelines of those roads and ambushing those people, or coming in behind them and flanking them, or both at the same time, cause an L-shaped ambush. Um, that's the only thing that I can see really that's going on there. As far as killing Christians, well, that's the Muslim doctrine. And it's one of the reasons why I look at Giuliani and people of his like. They may look good in a suit and they may talk fancy words in a suit, but in the end, they're all liars. You can't, if you run with that premise, anything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. And you can always think the opposite.
As you're saying that, I was thinking you can only put so much lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
So moving on to the next one for Khalid here. And this is the last one as far as our updates are concerned in this part of the world. ISIS soldiers behead Christians in Mozambique, burning church and homes, silent genocide. Islamic State affiliates burning churches, beheading Christians in Africa's Mozambique, Congo. And I'm not going to read through this or play the video because I want to make sure we get through the most important stuff tonight, which is discussing weapons in our enemy's hands. But Khalid, bring us up to speed on Mozambique, please.
Well, you have to understand, but when you have Al-Qaeda and ISIS operating in an area, their first objective is anyone who is not a radical Muslim, to bring them under their subjugation. ISIS and Al-Qaeda does not like the regular Muslim either if you're not radicalized. If you don't support their cause, they'll kill you as well. Again, this is someone who spent 6 months in Taliban custody, being tortured. I'm a Muslim, and they're supposed to be Muslims. I was tortured because I stood up against them. We raised a militia. We fought against them. When you look at Syria, where was the first massacre? Christians, Druze. And you're not interested in doing anything to stop it. And this is going to spread because we are seeing one country after another country after another country after another country be allowed to be taken over. We saw Afghanistan gone. Afghanistan is now terror central. What's going to end up happening is Mogadishu in Africa will become terror central for Africa. So Afghanistan and Mozambique will connect with each other. And they will be moving weapons and arms and people back and forth, and they will be taking over parts of Africa. Libya is unstable as it is. Iraq is unstable as it is. You can move through these areas very quickly and kill off all of your opposition, whether they be Muslim, Christian, Jew, whoever it may be. But your goal is to establish a radical state. And that radical state is no good for anyone. Nobody, not Europe, not the Middle East, not America, not the Far East. Indonesia has terror cells. Germany has terror cells. France has terror cells. What are we doing to stop them? They start small and they grow and they grow and they grow, and there's no way to stop them once they start growing.
Yeah, good point, Khalid.
Gothic
So
serpent all over again.
I've got a couple related posts here. So August 8th, 2012, Afghanistan Captain Florent Groberg made a split-second decision that saved lives. He tackled a suicide bomber to protect his team, an act of valor that earned him the Medal of Honor. And then Alex here replied or posted on top, he purposely tackled a suicide bomber and took the blast so that others may live. Definition of heroism. So fast forward to current day, here's a reply on Sarah Adams' part. This week, every law enforcement agency in America should sit down with its leadership and develop clear, actionable SOPs for suicide bombers. They are already here. Do you have the plans, training, and policies in place to protect the public and even your own offices? The worst time to make a plan is in the middle of the attack. Use now wisely. And I'm just going to preface S2's comments by saying our law enforcement is not ready. We do not have SOPs and all this stuff. And these guys know it. They've been probing for a while, which Khalid will get into a little bit more as we go. They know what our responses are, and they're not good. And we're basically sitting ducks. So S2, your thoughts on local PDs and sheriff's offices and SOPs against this type of terrorism?
Well, I know where I am now, I routinely see 2 police vehicles sitting down here in the parking lot of the local church eating donuts and drinking coffee in the morning. Um, they're clearly not looking for anything. They're not being vigilant enough. They're just taking their regular day, getting their paycheck, and that's all they care about. Um, Unfortunately, through the last several years of defund the police and everything, they're trying to fly under the radar. They're trying to do what they need to do to stay in their profession and stay alive. But I don't think they understand that what's coming or what's potentially coming in the near future is going to call upon them to do things that they have never thought of doing before.
Yeah, that's a key point there. And I'm going to have Khalid weigh in on this as well. I'll just preface it by saying we put a document together last week that we put out on our Substack, survivaldispatch.news, for free that basically showed what the pre and post defund the police budgets look like in tier 2 cities across the country. If you're not aware, Khalid's group way back in April broke the news that Al-Qaeda and ISIS working together have identified tier 2 cities in America that only have one tier 1 trauma center, and they're going to attack those centers because there's just not enough law enforcement to respond. And we can go one step further. If you take a tier 2 city like Buffalo, their current head count for their SWAT team is 25 men. So we had JJ Carroll on. We have JJ Carroll on frequently, 24-year CBP special agent. He's flat out stated that the government has stated that during the Biden installation, 200,000 SIAs were released into America. Those are special interest aliens. It just means terrorist, okay? So if they're saying it's 200,000, it's probably an order of magnitude greater than that. This next attack, this 9/11 2.0, where they're going to hit 10 to 15 mid-tier cities simultaneously. They're going to hit all the soft targets, schools, shopping centers, offices, churches, before taking over the tier 1 trauma center that they'll use as home base to torture, maim, and kill Americans and broadcast it out to the world to scare the shit out of everybody. We are woefully underprepared, both headcount and SOP wise. Khalid, pick it up there and just give a 30,000 foot view for our audience that hasn't watched the previous episodes we've done.
Well, okay, let's look at it from a very simple point of view. We just had the active shooter in Atlanta. When you look at the number of police vehicles, the number of citizens that were all gathered in one place, that is a gold mine for a suicide bomber. Walks in, clacks himself off, game over. And he's created 50, 100 casualties without even trying. We have been repeatedly saying this, that you need to start playing out the scenarios. You have guys that have been involved in the global war on terror that are home now. They are well educated. They understand what they saw when they were in Afghanistan, what they saw in Iraq, how these situations developed. But if you don't call them in, sit them down and say, look, what kind of an attack are we looking at? What could potentially happen? You're not going to be ready when it happens. Sarah's absolutely right. You cannot plan for an attack while the attack is going on, because you have mass commotion, you have panic, you have chaos, you have mayhem. How are you going to move in that situation? And when your police forces aren't ready for that kind of an attack, you're just sitting ducks then. They're going to pick you off sitting left and right. Now, let's go back and talk about the probing that's been done. Since January, we've been tracking hoaxes, threats. It started off with bomb threats. Then there were swatting calls. Then there were threats to schools. Every time they watched the police roll out, how did it happen? How many police cars showed up? Where did they station? Where did they empty the school out to? They have understood what you're going to do. So when they're picking, right now, they're in the process of selecting targets. Right now, your terrorist enemies are picking their targets. They've seen what they need to see. They've understood where your soft underbelly is, and they're going to hit you in those soft underbellies. Now, that means theme parks, restaurants, shopping malls, schools, churches. This is who you're going to hit, because that creates mass chaos. Once that mass chaos is started, everyone's going to flood to a trauma center. And once you're into the trauma center, they will use vehicle-borne IEDs, detonate those, and bring down the trauma center, any kind of a police response is blocked off. So we've got to look at so many possible potential things happening that law enforcement isn't looking at right now. And it's not going to be so simple that, it's not going to happen. They are there. There are 12,000, 15,000 terrorists sitting in the U.S. right now. They're not just there for the fun of it.
Right. So let's just throw one more thing out there for people to consider before we move on. There's also solid intelligence that these guys, a number of them are going to pose as police and other first responders. And there's been a bunch of uniforms and even vehicles that have been stolen that are unaccounted for. So if you think back to 10/7 in Israel, the people who were paying attention ran to the parking lot, got in their cars and tried to leave because they had good situational awareness. They were stopped by people pretending to be cops at the gate. And when they got the first couple of vehicles stopped, of course, everybody behind them stopped. And then Hamas just came out of the bushes and slaughtered every last one of them. So not only is all this stuff, potentially happening that Khalid's covered, but also what we perceive to be the good guys. Oh, thank God there's a cop. May not be a cop. I will say this, that in most instances, there's probably something that will give them away if you're paying attention. So a lot of times the footwear won't match, for example. So somebody's wearing running shoes with a, police uniform on. That's probably a little bit fishy. The other thing is that badges are a little bit harder to make good copies of, let's say, and they're typically easier to spot when they're fake stuff. But God forbid, if you're stuck in one of these situations, you're on the X and it looks like a cop or a paramedic is going to help you, don't be afraid to question their credentials. It may just save your life. So let's get into the meat of things here tonight. And that is, we've got two different situations that have been unfolding. Number one, our armories are very underprotected. This has been going on since the 70s. There's a ton of documentation on this. We're not disclosing anything that the bad guys don't already know. So there have been some fairly large thefts that started in the 70s. And when that happened, they ended up in congressional hearings and they published big, long, verbose PDF reports that disclosed every single thing that fell short, where all the weaknesses are. And now we have this picking up pace. And so we've got things like NVGs, night vision goggles, being stolen. And on the flip side, when, Biden and Milley did their bullshit pull out of Afghanistan, in addition to killing 13 of our people who didn't need to die, we gave up the night vision control. So when we have Mike Glover on every Wednesday, a Green Beret, he ascended to the level of an E9, by the way, before he became a GRS guy with the CIA, is that when our guys used to see somebody wearing night vision rigs, they just automatically knew that it was our guys and they let their guard down. Now, Khalid's team has captured all kinds of intelligence in Afghanistan, showing them operating with all of our high-end equipment. And we've given up probably the biggest advantage we had against these guys, and that who owns the night. Now they own the night just as much as we do. So let's get into this first article here. Mysterious crime spree targeted National Guard equipment stashes. If you look at the date, I know it's a bit of an eye test, August 7th, 2025. This is 3 days ago, and I'm going to go back through information prior to that, reverse chronological order. A string of U.S. Armory break-ins kept quiet by authorities for months points to a growing security crisis and signs of an inside job. A string of previously undisclosed break-ins at Tennessee National Guard armories last fall marks the latest in a growing series of security breaches at military facilities across the United States, raising fresh concerns about the vulnerability of U.S. armories to theft and intrusion. A confidential memo from the Tennessee Fusion Center reviewed by Wired details 4 break-ins at Tennessee National Guard armories over a 7-week span. In one incident, thieves made off with night vision goggles, laser target locators, and thermal weapon sights, among other equipment. At others, intruders breached fences, tripped alarms, and gained access to supply rooms discovered in the aftermath to have been unlocked. At least some of the break-ins seem to point to potential insider help. In Covington, Tennessee, for example, evidence suggests intruders may have known in advance the location of a secure key control box. At other sites, attempts were made to bypass alarms and entry points. So my understanding is that we don't have any definitive answer on who broke into these 4 armory locations in Tennessee. Now, keep in mind, there are dozens of these going back all the way to the 70s, but I would kind of roll with Occam's razor. You know, the most likely answer to your question is probably the right answer. As to, do me a favor and lay out who the potential people may be, because it's not just, you know, Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists, it's others that could potentially be doing this as well.
Al-Qaeda doesn't need to do this. They already have their shit. They already have their supplies here. I think these are the nihilist accelerationists that are doing this. And when I saw that posted today, I immediately said this was an inside job. You don't get into one of those National Guard armories without being detected, without somebody intercepting you, period. You just don't do it. So when you think of the things that were taken there, you know, there's one particular item amongst all of that, which is probably makes somebody more dangerous than a lot of people on the street. So I had to look at the groups. Let's also take into consideration something that happened a few years ago. What happened in Covington, Tennessee a few years ago? We remember that?
Vaguely.
The girl that was the mass shooter at Covington School?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at the hotbed of trannies, Trantifa, as I like to call them, that are in that area. A lot of those are being transformed into these nihilist accelerationists if they're not already that in the first place. So these people are very, very dangerous, and they look to promote violence. They're not going to be able to put this one on Al-Qaeda or any other terrorist organization. It's domestic completely.
Yeah, I appreciate you weighing in on that, S2. So next one up is not as long, but I'll let you speak to it, Khalid. So 3 Humvees stolen from Tustin Army Reserve Center. This was January 11th of this year. Thieves stole 3 Humvees from the Tustin Army Reserve Center Wednesday night. The Tustin Police Department said the suspects cut a lock to enter the parking lot between 8 and 11:30 p.m. They stole the vehicles, one of which was armored, and left an unknown time. Additionally, multiple storage lockers were broken into and missing gear. The suspect allegedly tried to cut a lock to uniform storage but failed. The Army said the suspects did not steal any weapons or ammunition other than 18 bayonets. However, this is one of many instances, if you go out there and you look at it, where there's been government vehicles, whether they be police cars, ambulances, or in this case, armored Humvees that have been stolen. I mean, when 9/11 2.0 comes, these guys are prepared way beyond, I think, what any American can imagine, unless they're knee deep in the intel. Khalid, can you speak to this as far as the vehicle side of this is concerned?
Well, look, your vehicles are important, but they're not as important as that one line in there that they tried to get into the uniform storage.
Yeah.
I mean, the vehicles, I understand that, but the uniforms are more important because then you look like an army. You look like your National Guard. You look like your army. And that brings a certain level of confidence when you're looking at a battlefield. The problem that we see is that America has gotten to a point of complacency. You're not watching what's going on around you. It's just it doesn't appear in the mainstream media. It's second tier, third tier websites that are picking up these stories. So you're not catching it unless someone picks it up and posts it on X. Someone discusses it in a podcast. You're not aware of this, and that's what they're counting on. Is that they've got you so wrapped up in the weapons of mass distraction that you're not even looking at what's going on. So on one side, they're testing you. They're figuring out what your habits are, how you're moving, what you're doing. On the other side, they're penetrating your camps. They're penetrating military bases, and they're looking at how the people are reacting. And there's no uproar. I mean, if this was going on and people were paying attention, this was happening. This was showing on mainstream media. Do you not think people would be protesting that what is going on? Our military bases are so easy to infiltrate. Yes, you have to have an insider to do it. That's hands down. You have to have an insider to open the gate for you and let you in. But why is there not an investigation as to how this is happening? These people, that one line. I mean, one line. I was reading the whole thing. I went, he went after uniforms.
Absolutely. which we already mentioned as far as law enforcement is concerned. But I want to give a shout out to H here. It wasn't Joe, and it was deliberate, not incompetence. The fact nothing was sabotaged or destroyed before pulling out speaks volumes that it was intentional. So some, whack job Biden voter, liberal or whatever, took a run at me on Substack. We've been attracting a lot of trolls lately, and basically said, it wasn't Joe Biden's fault, it wasn't Milley's fault, so on and so forth. And I said, we had a plan. The plan was in place, was to destroy the equipment before we exfilled, and we didn't do that. And he wanted to argue with me. We did not. There was no such plan, and there was a plan. And H, kudos for pointing that out, because you're right on the money with that one. So moving on to the next one, the dollar value is, go ahead, Stu.
Could I comment on a couple of other things?
There's
a couple of past stories that have happened in the past couple of years that also took a second back seat to a lot of this stuff that's been going on. I don't know if anybody remembers, but there were over 100 train derailleurs that were stolen.
Yeah,
right.
They've never been located.
Nope.
In Wilmington, North Carolina, in the ports, there was 15 million rounds of ammunition that were stolen right off the dock. Those things got swept under the carpet.
Yep. Good point. Good point. So this next article, I don't know if you want to comment on it or not. We've got plenty more queued up if you don't want to. This is a small dollar value, right? $3,000 worth of items stolen from Grand Junction National Guard Armory. However, they don't tell us what those $3,000 in items were. This is supposedly the truck that the bad guys used to break in. Could very well be uniforms, as Cleve has already mentioned. That's a big deal. The only reason I put this in the brief for tonight is we could probably do a week's worth of podcasts and not hit every single one of these thefts that's happened, these break and enters. There's just a ton of them. So let me go to the next one. I'll have you speak to it, since you're a gunsmith as well as to. So this is 1976. Danvers Armory robbery, 1976. And this is a long article. It was published in 2019, to go back in time here. But on a hot August weekend in 1976, a group of men approached a 7-foot-high chain-link fence behind the Danvers National Guard Armory and cut their way through. They reached the side of the armory and then snipped the telephone wires, preventing any security alarm from being sent out. The intruders picked the lock on the back door, knocked out the burglar alarm to prevent noise, and found their way to the gun vault. So actually, let me just scroll down a little bit before I put us back in the interview. 100 useless guns stolen in Danvers. So the SOP at that particular National Guard Armory was to take the BCGs, the bolt carrier groups, out of the rifles, out of the M4s. And at the time, the headline was, well, these guns are no good to anybody because we took the BCGs out. This is prior to machine guns being banned for personal use in 1986. A standard Colt, any AR-15 Colt bolt carrier group will work just fine in that M4. And this has been going on a long time. The reason I put that out there is because actually, let me show you this one too, and then I'll get you to comment as to. So check out this report. So this report is from 1986. So it's almost 10 years later. Army National Guard, opportunities to improve the condition and operation of armories. If you look down the left side here, it is 51 pages long. No, further, 60 pages long. And in those 60 pages, there's an absolute plethora of information of all the weak spots in armories across the country. And believe it or not, most of these have not been hardened. They haven't been target hardened to this day. And this information has been out there for whoever, whatever bad actor may be who wants to get that stuff. S2?
Well, I actually happen to possess one of those pre-1976 AR-15. So, yeah, I got one of those bolt carriers. Not one of those. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, those bolt carriers, they are full auto, and they have special machining that has to be done to them in order to make them work in the civilian AR. Honestly, because I have one and I've seen what it needs. But
the original Colt BCG is completely interchangeable. The original one, you could still go out and buy them today from collectors and stuff. But anyway,
But the point is that you have the one story of the $3,000 of items stolen, and that may be something that they're considering to be a useless item, as somebody has stolen boat carriers or
right.
something of that nature, or useless rifles. Who knows? Maybe they've stole a bunch of M1 Garens. Even without the boat carriers, those things are worth $1,000. But that's my point with those, is that unless we know what $3,000 stolen means, they could have just stolen boots.
Sure. Yeah. Khalid, I want to get your opinion on this. I mean, why do you think these vulnerabilities continue to exist for over 50 years now in National Guard armories, many of which I did a deep dive on it, many of which the buildings are in a complete state of disrepair. They've got holes in the roofs of some of them, which would be easy to penetrate through. Some of them have no electricity anymore for one reason or another. No electricity, no security systems, no alarm systems. I mean, how has this been allowed to go on this long, in your opinion, Khalid?
Well, again, from my point of view, when you're not interested in securing your own military facilities, whether it be paramilitary, whether it be your military facilities, you're going to have issues. And when you've had over 20 years to fix problems, there is no excuse. And a lot of people are going to say, okay, it was the government. They didn't give us the budget. They didn't do this. They didn't do this. Simple security is very simple. Is very easy. I mean, you, as a soldier, you know how to protect your perimeter. And these are perimeter breaches. Yeah, and when you can breach a perimeter and get that close to a building, you've already failed. That means that tomorrow the attack is much worse, because the hardest part for anyone is to breach your perimeter. Once you've breached the perimeter, once you're inside the base, there's no control as to where you can move. Especially if you've got a uniform that looks like what the rest of the soldiers are wearing. You're dressed the way they are. You know the lingo. You can move anywhere you want. And the people doing this are not stupid people. They have been educated. If you're encountered, this is what you say. This is the number you give. This is how you move through these places. The problem that we have is that, why are you not fortifying your locations? I mean, after $7 billion of weapons was left in Afghanistan, why are you not looking at your own domestic locations and fortifying those at least?
So the feds have allocated a minuscule amount of money each year in the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which gets voted on every fall. There's always tons of pork added to it, etc. And it's so bad, Khalid, that an armory today that's in bad shape and needs access to that money, even if they are one of the handful of locations that's chosen for upgrades, they're 10 years behind.
Yeah.
So when you get awarded, they pick you this year and say, okay, well, this armory in this town is going to get money from this year's NDAA, but yeah, you're 10 years out. We'll help you in 10 years. It's brutal. I mean, check this out here. So this is in, I think it was 2021, building concerns. In Delaware, half-century-old Army National Guard armories continue to erode. The roofs don't last forever, said William Cost, the construction facilities management officer for Delaware Army Guard. You end up with a lot of sewer problems, pipelines underneath the building that have collapsed or roots have grown through them. But fixing leaking roofs and sewer lines is only a partial remedy for all of these and so many other Army Guard facilities nationwide. Some lack the power supplies and network connectivity required for a growing array and simulators and computer systems. Others have faulty heating and cooling systems, outdated plumbing, inadequate classrooms, and or crumbling parking lots. And as women enter traditionally male-only combat units, few armories have restrooms and locker rooms for them. The Army Guard has also had facilities severely damaged by recent hurricanes and destructive storms. There are even some with health concerns such as lead, dust, asbestos, or mold. Then there are the storage issues. Armories designed and built to house Korean War era units simply lack the space for the latest equipment. Their maintenance shops are also too small for larger modern vehicles, and many lack the required physical security. New Jersey is one of the states grappling with shortage of space, says Lieutenant Colonel Vivian McNamara, the director of the Construction and Facilities Management Office for the New Jersey Army Guard. So here's the thing. there's a ton of news articles on this. It has not gotten any coverage from the legacy media, but those people who have bad intentions are more than aware of these locations as being relatively easy targets relative to others, and yet we still don't fix it. I mean, Khalid, the thing comes to mind for me is we're still in that September 10th, 2001 mind frame, like you like to say.
Yeah.
Nothing bad's going to happen.
Can I give a shout out?
Absolutely.
Hey, Durham National Guard, you might want to cut the trees down from behind your armory. That's a freaking vulnerability.
You think? Oh Lord.
Here's where when you look at the U.S., you've got your GWAT guys who have seen battle, understand how battle operates, and when they look at a base, within a matter of minutes, they've assessed where the weaknesses are and what needs to be hardened. Most of the guys in your National Guard have never even put on their uniform and come outside, other than for a natural disaster. So you've never been actually used with a weapon. So you are talking about layers and layers and layers and layers of people that aren't ready. And when you look at the facilities, it's neglect. It's pure neglect. This is your security. The first tier security after your police force is your National Guard. Second tier is calling in your military. When your National Guard has no security whatsoever, how easy is it to corner them and keep them out of the fight?
You also need to look at the proximity of these National Guard armories to the Tier 1 trauma centers. The one I just spoke of,
Yep.
right next door,
Right
literally
next door.
right next door.
Right next door. No, I'll give you another one. Columbus, Ohio has no National Guard center there, but you have a major defense contractor right next to a Tier 1 medical center. Major defense contractor right next to a Tier 1 defense center, Tier 1 medical center. How dangerous is that?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Too funny. So let me bring up the next one here, which is from Sarah Adams. Actually, it's a good one. And I'll go to you on this one, S2. So a confidential memo from the Tennessee Fusion Center reviewed by Wired details 4 break-ins at Tennessee National Guard armories, which we briefly mentioned earlier. In one incident, thieves made off with night vision goggles, laser target locators, thermal weapon sights, among other equipment. So the reason I brought this back up again is S2, for the average person who's never had IR night vision, thermal, and doesn't understand what a force multiplier it is, how do our cops even stand up against us? Let me just throw a quick anecdote in here, by the way. So we were testing some, you may recall this, S2, we were testing some NVGs for a company, and we were out on the golf course back here, and Cindy was like 600 feet away, and she had upside down paint, just water soluble, because we were marking off 100 yards, 200, all the way out to about 600 yards. And there was a guy who's a peckerhead, complete peckerhead. He went to jail for selling weapons to cartels, and we live in an upper middle class established neighborhood. But anyway, he started John at my wife and stuff like that. So she gets back, tells me what happens. Thank God I wasn't down there. I'd probably still be sitting in prison. But this guy called the cops and said we were vandalizing stuff. So 2 cops showed up, and I had a bunch of NVG stuff set up on tripods so that we could take pictures, all kinds of stuff like that. And so they told us, the guy called, we showed him the paint, said, look, it's water soluble. It's upside down paint for putting lines on fields and stuff. I said, how come you guys have 4 IR illuminators, beacons essentially on your vest? And to this day, I don't know if they were bullshitting me or not, but they said, we don't know what you're talking about. And I said, okay, well, you stay there. Your other guy, come here and look through these NVGs. They had IR illuminators that you use for locating your troops, when they're down on the ground. They said they weren't aware of it. Maybe they were, and they just didn't want to acknowledge it or not. But as to, I just want to cut over to you, and maybe you could explain just how much of a force multiplier we had and that we've now given up.
Well, once again, we had the ability to basically spot the silhouettes of our own people, because we understood what those devices looked like on a person's head. So if anybody silhouetted themselves, you was like, yeah, they don't have night vision. We don't have thermal. We do. Thermal, on the other hand, which creates an interesting issue. I don't think IR, well, IR is a force multiplier, particularly if your enemy doesn't have it. There is a problem with that, is that in a very, very sharp darkness, it's very limited in visibility, which means that you have to have an IR illuminator or a target designator, which is one of those items that I don't know if it was an IR target locator or not, but I'm assuming it was, but that's a game changer as well. Thermal presents the biggest challenge, but it also does require some training. While you can see thermal signatures, you could also be looking at a hot rock and not know it. So there's some training that goes along with that thermal, and they also have to be kept up, which is one of the things that, while everybody's up in arms about the thermal equipment that was left behind, who is maintaining those? Who has the technology to maintenance those? And my guess is they probably sent all of the unserviceable items or things that needed service back to China. And they paid China a pretty penny to refurb those things and send them back. But without the training, like I said, you could be chasing a rock and not know it.
Yeah. So that's ironic you mentioned that, S2, because I just read an article, and Khalid can probably speak to this, that the stuff like that needed to be maintained and that the Taliban didn't have the capabilities of doing that. They sent it across the border into Iran, and Iran not only did it, of course, they're reverse engineering our stuff to suit themselves. Yeah. And I mean, they're on the border right there, right? One side's Iran, the other side is Afghanistan. But, you know, when I was putting together tonight's brief and I was trying to think of questions earlier today to throw in there, one of them was, you know, how should citizens prepare for criminals equipped with, you know, thermal and IR and all this stuff? So I was mentioning to Khalid, let me show you this. There's a company out of Germany called Confusion Camo, and they make multiple different patterns. This is just happens to be the one for somewhere that's, you know, got some greenery. They have other ones that are like coyote colored, and it's almost impossible to see this stuff. And I mentioned it to Khalid that they sell under a different retail name. I think it's ghosthoodie.com.
I've got one.
So I've got one sitting right here, hanging over here. And that's cool that you have one, because you can attest to it as well with Khalid. But check this out. So in this short video, what is it? 56 seconds long. I have a mic on. I'm hidden in the bushes. And there's another video goes with this. It's way longer. I don't want to bore people with it. So you'll hear my voice super clear on this, but Denny's walking not 5 feet away from me, can't see me. I showed this to Khalid. He went back and looked at the video. He's like, man, I couldn't see you either. This is how good this is. And it's not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. So if somebody's truly worried about being identified, number one, this is IR absorbing material. What that means is there's no reflectivity. It's also referred to near IR or near infrared compliant. So you hit it with an illuminator, it doesn't reflect and come back. You may have seen us, we've done some stuff on plate carriers where they use different materials on them, and these $500-600 high-end law enforcement plate carriers light up like a Christmas tree. I put them in a stand of bamboo trees. We took a $25 Chinese cheapo one, stuck it out there 50 feet with an IR illuminator. You couldn't see it. It was uncanny. But check out this quality of camo here. 56 seconds.
All right, Chris, I know you're in there somewhere. Give me a shout out.
I'm right here, Denny.
Where? Say again?
I'm right here.
I see you.
One more time.
I'm right here, Denny. Are you blind?
Only in one eye.
So you do realize you would have been dead by now.
Yes, I do. What are we wearing here?
Camo, CONCAMO, confusing camo.
Con camo.
Yes, sir.
Do we blend in or what? How difficult was that to get into?
I won't lie. I had to have help. So that's actually, I forgot about that. There's a video that I didn't know Denny was shooting of me trying to get into that thing because the leggings are separate. And I'm a fairly stout guy. I was tripping over myself. And he said, hey, check this out. I did a video of you struggling to get into that. Anyway,
Thing is with that, you don't need the leggings.
no, you don't. But when they sent us the stuff from Confusion Camo, they sent us the leggings, which also covers your boot. So it's your boot goes inside of the leggings. It's not, doesn't cut off at the ankle. And you're right, you couldn't get away with just the hoodie as well. But we had my wife put that on, and when we had the IR test that I was telling you about that we did, and I'm telling you, like 15 feet away in front of a stand of trees with an IR illuminator, and still couldn't see her with night vision. It's pretty crazy stuff. Anyway, boys and their toys, right? So let's move on a little bit. I'm going to skip ahead a couple articles here just to speed us up a tad. So now we're going to pivot essentially from these domestic armories to the debacle that the Biden admin, the Biden admin, whatever you want to call it, the clowns, totally screwed up or did it on purpose. Like H said, that could very well be the case. But flashback, U.S. weapons left behind during Afghanistan withdrawal would be used in terrorist attacks against Israel, IDF official warned. So, by the way, there's a ton of intelligence out there that the Taliban didn't just take this and distribute it, to Al-Qaeda, TTP, ISKP, ISIS, all these bad actors in Afghanistan, which is terror central now. They also sold it to other groups to finance their operations. And one of them, of course, was Hezbollah. There's two Hezbollahs. There's Hezbollah in the Middle East that's funded by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And then there's Hezbollah Unit 910, which is global. That doesn't mean it's a small unit. That's just what they call people outside of the Middle East. And they are tasked with funding themselves. They have to be self-funding. So Hezbollah has been embedded with Mexican cartels since the 1990s. They're so well embedded with them is they speak Spanish with the same accent as the cartel members. They look like the cartel members. You would not be able to identify them by looking at them and say, oh, that's a Middle Eastern terrorist, that's a Hezbollah guy, or anything like that. So there's all kinds of intel now showing that equipment we left there has found its way back here into America. It's found its way into Mexico. It's found its way to all of these terrorists who hate our guts. So I'll just read a quick little bit here and then I'll go to you, Khalid. So an Israeli commander said the U.S. small arms that were left behind during President Joe Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan in August 2021 have found their way into the hands of Palestinian terror groups in the Gaza Strip. Weapons the U.S. abandoned during the tumultuous and deadly withdrawal were seized by the Taliban. Following the August 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, which saw 13 service members killed, billions of dollars in U.S. weapons and equipment, including Black Hawk helicopters, fell into the hands of the Taliban. An Israeli commander told Newsweek that IDF has seen the weapons in use by terrorist organizations in Gaza. I mean, they're literally around the world. Khalid, without speaking out of turn on things that can't be shared, right? Speak to the difficulty for people running ops against the terrorists now because of what we gave them.
It's become impossible. You got to understand, Afghanistan, when we were dealing with the Taliban to begin with, the Taliban were using AK-47s and they were only being able to fight during the day. They could not fight at night. So there was an advantage let's take the Pakistani military. When we were fighting against the Taliban, the day was the only time they could fight. They couldn't fight at night because they couldn't see anything. Now you can see. Now you can pick us off wherever we are. Now, the problem we have is inside of Afghanistan, you have the IRGC set up inside of Afghanistan. You have Hezbollah, you have Hamas. That's where your weapons are going to Gaza and to Lebanon. You have Chinese and Russian military sitting inside of Afghanistan. So whatever you don't know how to use or whatever you cannot fix, you have engineers sitting right there. Bagram Air Base, the reason you have not gotten Bagram Air Base back is because the Russians have taken it over. They have been sitting there for years now. And the Chinese have now moved in. They're giving them support. They're giving them training. The force that's been created in Afghanistan is now so much different than what it was back in 2001. We've had this conversation in the series podcast where when the U.S. first invaded in 2001, it was completely unfair because you were fighting against a bunch of people that didn't know how to fight. Now you have a properly trained military that knows how to move, how to operate, how logistics are done, how strategic planning is done. how to source weapons, how to fix weapons. We estimate $1.5 billion of that $7 billion of weapons that was left in Afghanistan. $1.5 billion of that weapons is inside the United States right now, sitting in Al-Qaeda and ISIS's hands. That is a huge amount. The amount that's been sold to, I think I shared the story with you, the Mexican cartels paid Al-Qaeda $880 million. How much weaponry did you buy for $880 million? And what is really interesting is when you look at the drug trade that runs from Afghanistan, all of those drugs move to the Mexican cartel moves them into the US. And sometimes they say, okay, here's what you do. Keep 20 million of it and we'll give you weapons in return. Or take this much money, we're sending this many people, smuggle them into the United States, or move this much weapon into the United States. And the cartels, Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, the Taliban are one handshake. They are one handshake. They are not separate groups. They're all working together.
Yeah.
Did they leave behind any Penske trucks?
Well, so just because you brought that up, before we go to the next article, tell us about Penske S2. This is ridiculous.
So everybody's heard about the viral posting by now of ICE doing the raid on the Home Depot parking lot using Penske trucks. What a lot of people don't know is, guess who rents Penske Penske rental trucks? Home Depot.
Yep.
Who has been promoting human trafficking since 2018? Home Depot. There is a letter that I have circulated to the Home Depot Investor Relations Group pretty much stating the fact that they have been supporting human trafficking since 2018, if not further back. So for Penske came out in opposition saying, we had no idea that our vehicles were being used like this, which is total and utter bullshit in their response, because when you rent a vehicle from somewhere, you sign a contract agreeing to that you will not use the vehicle in such a manner, and you will not do this and you will not do that. My guess is they were probably given those vehicles and they didn't sign any contract to do it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the other piece to it is it's kind of like putting a sign up saying it's a gun-free zone. Bad guys don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, Penske's been in some deep shit for the last, I don't know how many years. I can't have lost count.
All right, moving on to the next one here. So it's painfully clear that the military equipment the U.S. left behind in Afghanistan after the 2021 withdrawal is one of the biggest military screw-ups of all time, or done on purpose, like H said. This video out of Pakistan shows a TTP commander proudly displaying U.S. weapons and bragging about surveillance tools that can tap into local communications, with over $7.1 billion worth of gear ending up in Taliban hands. Let's be clear, that's $7.1 billion in small arms. That's not $7.1 billion overall. Overall, the number is more like $82 billion in assets that we left there. The reason people don't mention that is because some of it, we had already transferred ownership of it to Afghanistan. That was essentially us arming them and giving them equipment. But either way, the 7.1 billion is small arms, which is a big number still. The implications are terrifying. These weapons, combined with support from Al-Qaeda and TTP and Taliban, have supercharged attacks. They're happening more often and with more success. Their newfound access to cutting-edge surveillance tech is making it easier to zero in on locals working with Pakistani forces. Their leader, Mufti Nawar Wali Masood, is leveraging this tech and support in an effort towards setting up control in multiple contested zones. And this is just a screenshot. It's not the actual video from that. So, Khalid, I'll go back to you on this one, simply based on the fact that you have resources across Pakistan, Afghanistan, Middle East, and this has completely changed the game, right?
Yeah. We are, the operations we could run before, the things we could do before, we cannot do now, because they are significantly more advanced than us, because you can pick off anybody moving at dark. I mean, the nighttime was the greatest time for an intelligence operation to happen. But for us now, I mean, you can be sitting up in the mountains and see us, and you've got a sniper rifle, you can take one of our boys out. And that's not just Pakistan. When you talk about Pakistan, the TTP has been turned into, and I mentioned this the other day, these guys are literally trained to sit on a motorcycle, and as the motorcycle is moving, hit a target. That's not minimal training that you're giving the terrorist. They can sit on top of a truck as a truck is moving, and with an AR be able to take out a target in motion. You are training these guys to come after us at a very different level. Add on top of that, that India and China have given you drones, that you are flying over these tribal areas in Pakistan and dropping mortar shells from drones. I mean, the level of warfare that we're dealing with now, it's almost equal. It is almost equal to what our military has. And it's become very difficult to fight.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I've actually got a video. Give me 2 seconds to see if I can find it here, which is pretty interesting. Basically, I'll look for it when you guys are speaking, but Denny Chapman, who was with us for years at Survival Dispatch, super awesome guy. He had to move back to the Midwest, look after his aging parents. He's a national level shooting champion across multiple different categories. And I have a video of him riding his horse at a full gallop, shooting off of the horse with an AR-15 and ringing small steel targets. That's phenomenal. S2 can speak to this as well, but moving and shooting at the same time is a skill that takes a lot of practice to do. It's one of the things I do. 5 days a week, I train run and gun training under stress inoculation. I did put a video out this weekend where I put my hands in a bucket of ice for 60 seconds. I ran 30 minutes of high intensity training, heart rate 140, 145 beats per minute. If you've never shot while your heart rate's elevated, you will have a hard time hitting the broadside of the barn. And also when you're under that level of stress, the reason that I put my hands in the ice is because it simulates losing your fine motor controls. And so you got to have a handle on all that kind of stuff. But like I said, I'll try and find it while one of y'all are speaking, because it's a pretty cool video. But let's go over to here to this list. So Proud Army Brat, she's got a gazillion followers on X. One of my brothers was the commander of Bagram Air Force Base, Afghanistan, for 2 years. I know this is fact. One of the important functions Bagram had was to heavily guard the massive arsenal of our weapons, which were stored there. When Biden and Milley pulled out fast, those 85 billion of our assets were left behind for the Taliban, which included brand new 358,530 assault rifles, M4s, 126,395 pistols. Let's hope that they were M17s and 18s, which is a SIG P320. Maybe they'll shoot themselves when they holster their gun. 64,363 machine guns. So these are not M4s. This will be a level up like M240s, 249s, that sort of thing. Other equipment, $50 million in ammunition, over $1 million in mortar rounds, 28,825 Humvees, including armored gun trucks, 900 combat vehicles, 167 aircraft, including 33 Blackhawks and 3 C-130 Hercules, 42,000 pieces of night vision, the full panel vision, 4 tubes. That's $45,000 cost to our military for that level of night vision. Biometric and positioning equipment. In turn, the Taliban shared their newfound collection of weapons with their militant terrorist friends. Image below shows them selling the weapons. Biden continues to fund terrorists. So if you're not aware of this, by the way, we are still sending the Taliban $40 million a week. Get your head wrapped. But well, we're sending them $40 million under one program and another $10 million under another program, which is a whole other topic. And we've discussed it ad nauseum on other episodes. So spare me the Dems' outrage and demanding gun control. They gifted an entire tyrannical regime with the very weapons they want to take away from us. Not happening. I'll zoom it in. I mean, just the overwhelming number of weapons left behind is mind-boggling. More than enough to arm all of our enemies. S2, just want to get your thoughts on this before we move on. It's the volume, though, is what I'm getting at. Like,
well,
there's such a high volume.
I think those numbers are a little inflated, considerably inflated. based on the information that I have. What's more concerning to me is the M240 and M249 light machine guns, the rocket-propelled grenade launchers, the mortars, the air-to-ground missiles, because you have high-order explosives in those mortars as well as those air-to-ground missiles that can be removed and fashioned into something else. That's what concerns me. The AR-15s, I'm not concerned with, and frankly, I don't think the Taliban are either, because they've been using AK-47s for so many years effectively. Why would you change your platform? It's a 30 caliber versus a 22. I mean, it's going to make a bigger hole and put you down the first time. They're good at using that weapon. I don't see them changing it. But the explosives matter with it, and the machine gun portion of it, I have a problem with that.
Well, Khalid's intel says otherwise. He's got a ton of pictures of TTP in particular with our AR platforms. And on top of which, out of that 50 million in ammo that we left, I know for a fact a shit ton of it was M855A1, which civilians cannot buy. It's a military-only round for armor piercing that is an order of magnitude better than the M855 green tip. They're both 62 grains, but it's a completely different construction. The regular 7.62 by 39 rounds that they have are not armor piercing. They don't have the velocity to do it. The M855A1's average velocity is between 3,100 and 32 feet per second, which will defeat not just 3A body armor, but lots of level 3 armor as well. So anyway, besides the point, do you want to throw anything in, Khalid, just as far as the usage of our weapons?
Well,
not
look,
the night vision, but the weapons.
S2's right in what he's saying, that for the Taliban to give up the AK is kind of foolish. But when you have that many ARs that you can sell to other terror groups, well, they're more than happy to buy them. That's a great revenue source for them. And the Taliban has used it as a revenue source, selling it to the IRGC, selling it to Hezbollah, selling it to Hamas. The TTP was woefully unarmed, woefully armed when they were fighting in Pakistan. And when you come at us now, I sent you the pictures. You've seen the actual pictures of what they're carrying now. They are well armed now. And it worries us in Pakistan, because when we start talking about what's going on in Pakistan, you are trying to take the border province of Pakistan away from Pakistan and join it with Afghanistan. And you're using the TTP to do it.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to see if I can't pull up one or two of these pictures, but every single one of these pictures of the TTP, they're using our rifles. And here's one of the ones that you sent to me right there. So clearly these are our weapons. These are M4s in both cases. And he sent me a ton of this stuff. So maybe Al-Qaeda is stuck with their stuff, but like Khalid said, there's so much stuff we left that they've sold it off. Khalid, let's just say in general terms, Afghanistan has become the center of the universe for terrorist groups. Why is that for the average person? Why have they become the center, or how have they become the center?
Okay, let's understand this. I mean, when Biden was president and he left Afghanistan, well, he didn't really care about what was going on in Afghanistan. The only thing you ever saw in the news was, human rights. You would see that women's rights were being violated, but no one was talking about the weapons. If you notice, if you go back to the legacy media, no one was talking about the weapons that were left behind. Everyone was talking about human rights, and we need to bring the Taliban on board. We need to give them legitimacy. Ever since the Trump administration's come to power, I know this for a fact, that inside the Trump administration, there are 2 or 3 people that are saying, let's marginalize Afghanistan. Let's turn our back and not pay attention to what Afghanistan is doing. The day you turn your back on Afghanistan, the amount of terror warfare that's going to start across the Middle East and across Europe and into the US is unbelievable, because that is where they're all sitting. You have got the Bin Ladens, you have got Haqqani. These are people, when you talk about someone like Sirajuddin Haqqani, those of our GWAT vets who fought in Afghanistan know the Haqqani name very well, because they were the most brutal when it came to planning out attacks against US forces. It's like when we talk about in Iraq, when you talk about Giuliani, He was the most brutal when it came to carrying out attacks against U.S. forces in Iraq. That's why he was promoted to Syria. What we ended up doing when the Trump administration came into power, the Americans negotiated a deal where a hostage was released, but in the process, you took Sirajuddin Haqqani, Anas Haqqani, and another Haqqani off the terror watch list. And the New York Times ran this beautiful puff piece going from his childhood all the way up to today. That, you know, who is he and how does he do it and what has he been through and what did his father do? You made him sound like the natural successor to take over leadership of the Taliban. Haqqani is running the show. The leader of the Taliban is just a spiritual leader. He's not the tactical operational head. Sirajuddin Haqqani is. He controls ISKP. He is in direct communication with IS Corps. He is in direct communication with Boko Haram. He's in direct coordination with communication with the Bin Ladens. He's in direct coordination with every terror group that exists. If you remember, I sent you a graphic that the terrorist team put together of all the terror groups that were connected to Sirajuddin Haqqani. And when you look at that, there's not a continent, there's not a place in the world that does not have a terror group connected to Haqqani. And you took him off the terror watch list.
Yeah, I don't know where I put that graphic, but it's something else. Actually, what might have been a PDF. Was it a PDF? Yeah, it was.
A PDF, yep. It was a PDF.
Yeah.
But Khalid, he just became the guy that hands out passports. That's all he is.
Well, I mean, the beauty, this is what we like to talk about is, you know, this Terrorist Thursday in Afghanistan, where the entire passport office is shut down to Afghanis, and just terrorists come in, they go, okay, make me a passport and put this name on it. And you have no idea how many terrorists you've let in. I have told the CIA and Homeland Security, every Afghani who's entered your country since 2001, do a full background check on them, do a full vet run on them, because 99% chance he's a terrorist.
So this is the chart that Khalid was mentioning. Where can people download this from? Does Sarah have it?
This is I don't even remember. Sarah sent this to me.
It's TIC's website.
Yeah, it's TIC's website. They put together an entire map of all the terror groups that were connected.
Trans-International Consortium.
That's it. Yep.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, it's a fascinating graphic that shows just the reach and the sprawl of these groups. So we're running a little bit long on time. I'm just going to show this one, then you can quickly comment on it. Khalid, Afghanistan, the world's new mercenary hub. From U.S. trained commandos to $3,000 a month Russian mercenaries, Taliban's Afghanistan now trades blood for dollars, with $7.1 billion in abandoned U.S. arms fueling ISIS-K, Al-Qaeda, and anti-Pakistan terror. The world's silence is deafening. I'm not going to play this video because we're running long, but basically these are mercenaries, Afghan mercenaries, using our weapons plus Russian weapons to fight on behalf of the Russians against the Ukrainians. I mean, these guys are kind of like, I'm trying to think of a comparable group.
Forrest Gump.
Gump. No, I'm thinking more so along like Blackwater, you know, those types of groups. This is like an Afghanistan version of Blackwater, essentially.
Wagner Group.
Wagner Group is a good
Yep,
example as well.
That's the best way to describe it, is the Wagner Group.
Very much so. So this next one, this got picked up by a bunch of mainstream media, by the way. Trying to remember what the reporter's name is. It's in here somewhere. So Yami Virgin is his name. So this is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. U.S. bombs left in Afghanistan are ending up in the hands of Mexican cartels. And everybody picked this up. CBS, ABC, NBC. But here's where some of our weapons are that we left behind.
New exclusive video tonight from DPS showing the brazen actions of the cartels right on the Texas border. Although many of the explosives seen in Mexico are homemade, the number of those coming from Afghanistan have also gone up. As our Yami Virgin investigates, this is nothing new.
Under the veil of darkness in this exclusive video, captured by Texas DPS, you can see what cartel members were doing this weekend. Just across the small Texas island of Fronton, in the middle of the Rio Grande, between the U.S. and Mexico, an island that was often used by cartels to move their goods, but now it is also protected by DPS. The explosives you see are believed to be homemade, far from the images that most of us here are used to seeing when we talk about violence in Mexico. Gun violence used to be the norm. Now, the number of explosions are going up.
En un hecho que no habíamos visto antes aquí, con artefactos explosivos improvisados, detonaron.
I'm just going to read this since it's so small. In an act that we have not seen before here with improvised explosives, seven explosives were detonated, killing 6 and injuring 12.
7 de ellos, uno más que afortunadamente no explotó, dejaron hasta ahora preliminarmente un saldo de 6 fallecidos y 12 personas heridas.
In the last 18 months, reports of explosions and mines have gone up. And the way the improvised explosives are built is more like those seen in the Middle East, according to retired Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in Charge, Ari Jimenez.
They have a pipe type with a round base, and then the top, instead of the regular cap that we've seen in the past, it is more like conical, like a triangle with point.
According to the U.S. Inspector General for the Reconstruction of Afghanistan, a U.S. government entity, an estimated $7 billion of new equipment was left behind, in addition to another $18 billion of equipment we gave the Afghan National Army.
We have seen some of the ground-to-air munitions, and those are the ones that initially we saw them crossing the borders of Pakistan and India, and we saw them in that area of fighting. Then we saw them deploy in Yemen.
I think some people are going to be scratching their head going, how in the heck did Afghanis get into communication with cartels to sell?
Many of these armed dealers are taking that equipment and smuggling, just like we see the smuggling of precursors for fentanyl from China. We have seen the smuggling of weapons in merchandise in containers from China, from other parts of the world to Mexico. And
so I sent the link out to all the platforms we're broadcasting to for anybody who wants to watch the balance of the video. There's one more here. I'm not going to play it, and then I'll give both you guys a chance to comment on it. This is the last article we'll be sharing tonight, other than the reader submitted article. So the Mexican cartels, freshly armed with weapons left in Afghanistan and bought from Ukraine, are ready to defend their human trafficking networks. Release the dogs of war. This is a war worth fighting. Human smugglers in the Mexican Juarez cartel have a message. F Trump, F the wall. One cartel member operates 30 stash houses for human trafficking. So I'm going to put a link to that in all the live chats as well, just because we're running long on time. But I'll go to you first, Clete, and then S2 for closing thoughts on the debacle of us leaving all this stuff in Afghanistan. And now all of our enemies have it, including cartels.
Everybody has it. Everybody has it. I mean, you gave the Taliban not only a drug trade, but you gave them a weapons trade. The mercenaries that are fighting in Ukraine, if you looked at Zelensky's speech, I think it was 3 days ago, he named off Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, mercenaries that were fighting in the Ukraine. And you have to wonder, how long are we going to tolerate this? How long are we going to let this keep going before there's another invasion or there's another bombing run that wipes Afghanistan out? Because you're letting this run. As long as this keeps going on, the threat to the entire world grows. You cannot stop this. I keep saying this. Instead of paying the $40 million to the Taliban, send in special operations teams and start killing them all off. You've got explosive specialists. You've got snipers. Start killing them all off, because You cannot end this with paying them off. No matter how much money you give them, they are still going to do what they're going to do. That's their belief system.
It sure is. S2, your closing thoughts? You're on mute, S2.
Fuck them and the horse they rode in on.
That's too funny. All right. So we do have a reader submitted story of the day from Dale. He's a prolific poster in our private Signal chat. If you go to survivaldispatch.news, like I said earlier, you can sign up for a free account or you can sign up for a paying account. This is what it looks like here. Daily SITREPs you get. The only thing you don't get in the SITREPs is down at the end. We put all of our sources, and that's just for paying members. But members also get an invite to our super busy Signal chat. There are days when there's 3,000 messages go through there. The volume of information is absolutely phenomenal. So if you do sign up $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, you get 2.5 months for free. You install Signal on your phone. If you don't have it installed already, send your phone number to support@survivaldispatch.com. We'll get an invite to you to join the Signal chat. But you also get enrolled in S10, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. It's exactly what it sounds like. You get all 37 of our Survival Dispatch Insider magazines, which is those guys on the wall behind me. They sell for $9.99 a piece. You get all of them for free when you sign up as a member. And you also get early access to instructional videos from JJ Morris. So this X post is from Dale, prolific poster, to our private Signal chat. And he says, more signs of hunger in Gaza. A super skinny Gazan advertises sugar for just 40 shekels per kilo after looting it from UN aid trucks that delivered it for free. Apparently, no one told him there's supposed to be a famine in Gaza. 30 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. Suffice it to say that these guys, these Hamas guys, are taking food that's supposed to be for humanitarian aid, intercepting it, and then making people buy it from them. Not exactly a big surprise there. S2, do you have the conflicted question handy, or do you want me to do it?
Nope, I got it. Hang on a second. Let's scroll back up. Here we are. Okay, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, before I do this, everybody needs to smash that like button like a radical jihadist slapped your mama. Here we go. Your home is attacked and marauders are dragging a loved one towards your vehicle. Both perpetrators are armed with pistols and you are armed with a semi-automatic rifle. Based on your training and experience, you have a 50% chance of neutralizing the attackers or hitting your loved one. Would you take a shot or not?
Who's going first, S2?
I'll go with Khalid on this one. I know what his answer is going to be.
I'll take the shot. Oh yeah, I'll take the shot. I've actually been stuck in a situation like that before. I took the shot. We were lucky enough to hit where we wanted to hit. But yeah, that's not even a second thought. Yeah, take the shot.
And I'm going to agree with Khalid, because if I don't take the shot, it's 100% chance that whoever that person is going to be raped, beat up, maimed, potentially killed. So I'm going to try and swing things the other way, even if I only have a 50% chance, which I think I have a better chance of that because I train a lot. So anyway, so we'll be back tomorrow night, usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern. So Khalid, Randy, and Jeff MD with the 5th episode in our Road to 9/11 2.0 series. And it's going to be on encrypted, disguised, and decentralized communications, on how sleeper cells communicate with each other. And then we'll be back again on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And the following week, we have 4 more episodes in that. But the way we designed these episodes for the road to 9/11 2.0 is you can watch 1, you can watch 3, you can watch them whatever order that you want. They all stand alone. You don't have to watch 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way through to 12 at all. So if you want to learn about all the things that are on the horizon for 9/11 2.0, we are very fortunate to have Khalid. So Khalid is one of Sarah Adams' primary sources for intel out of the Middle East. And he's recognized by everybody in the intelligence game as a top level guy. So we've short circuited the process here. And we're fortunate to have Khalid on our team. And he's brought just a huge amount of insight. Of course, we'll have some of our other regulars back this week, most likely Mike Glover, JJ Carroll, so on and so forth. But we've got some pretty awesome episodes lined up for this week. Tuesday, S2 and John will be back. I'm not sure what John has on the agenda for that, but if I had to guess, it's probably related to him being at the GOA conference all weekend in Knoxville.
Well, I can't comment on that. I wasn't there.
I'm sure he'll find a way to include you. If nothing else, to rub it in your face. Or
I'm a member of GOA.
You know what I didn't realize, S2, by the way, that they're fixing to celebrate their 50th anniversary. I didn't realize they've been around quite that long. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, between now and tomorrow night, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America, and enjoy the closing video. It's a brand new one tonight.
Down here in the rain fields, outside of the globe, my world's getting small.